Let's talk about budget. Marketing is actually considered a cost for most ventures. And when we're coming up with our marketing budget, cost is one of the most important things that we have to consider. Now, there are 4 different factors that we think about when we talk about cost. The first is attributable cost. So that's the cost associated or incurred when we're actually doing the marketing activity. So if you think about it, let's say we're doing a marketing event. The costs incurred by throwing that event and putting it together are what we would consider attributable marketing costs. Non-attributable marketing costs are costs that we would incur no matter what. So that might be the personnel that are working in the company related to marketing. So we have a marketing team. We can't avoid paying our marketing team, so that's considered a non-attributable cost. Now, variable cost is the cost that relates to the quantity of activities that we're doing with our marketing. So if you think of a pay-per-click model, for every click, there's a cost associated with that. That is considered a variable cost because over time, the cost is going to change depending on the number of clicks on a specific ad. Now, a fixed cost would be something that we pay once that doesn't change and is not variable. So it might be a cost that we pay upfront to enroll in a platform or service that we're using for our marketing. That would be considered a fixed cost. Now, costs are incurred in a number of ways and at every stage of our marketing strategy. So they can be paid upfront with production. So maybe we're paying a photographer to go and take pictures or an artist to create content. They can also be paid out when we're actually distributing. So maybe we're paying influencers to promote our content on their social media channels. And then lastly, they could be incurred as it relates to the technology we're using. So if we have a platform or service that we're using to distribute our content or create our content, there's costs associated with that as well. Now, when setting the marketing budget, there are 3 approaches that we can take. The first is competitive parity. Now, competitive parity involves you going out and trying to understand how much your competitors are paying for their marketing and then matching that. Now, you could do that by looking at the marketing that they have in the marketplace or out in the world, but it's going to be really hard to pin down exactly what that cost is associated to that marketing. So another approach that you could take is a percentage of sales. So what this does is you take a percentage of your revenue as it relates to the sales for your product or service, and then you dedicate that to your future marketing. Now, this is great for more established businesses that already have some sales under their belt. It could also be a great way to help you understand how much more you need to put into your business in order to grow. But the other way that you can think about this is also an objective and task approach. So if you set a goal and define the marketing tasks that you need to achieve it, that's what you pay, and that ends up being your budget. Now, the other thing we want to think about as it relates to our budget is how we're measuring our marketing, because return on investment is really important. We don't want to invest all of this money into all of the costs associated with marketing and not expect a return. And so there's a couple calculations that we can do up front to help us understand better if we're making the right investment. The first is conversion rate. So conversion rate is looking at what is the predicted activity related to the goal of our marketing objective. So maybe that's we want 50 million people to click on a link on our landing page, or we want 30,000 people to download our application. The rate at which our customers take that action or help us achieve that goal is our conversion rate. And our goal is always to maximize that conversion rate. So we're maximizing the return on marketing that we use to drive that action. The second thing we want to consider is the cost per thousand. So this is a number that's typically used when we talk about media types, specifically commercials and paid advertising, where we have to think about how many people are we going to get in our audience size and how much is it going to cost us to reach that audience. Now, you wouldn't have to focus on this as much in startups simply because you're usually not targeting this many people at scale in a paid manner. So you're usually not doing commercials or paying for YouTube ads. But once you get a little bit bigger and you've grown to a point where you're considering audience sizes that are a little bit bigger and platforms and different vehicles for marketing that cost, you're going to want to know what your cost per thousand is. And you also want to think about your cost per lead. So your cost per thousand is the cost associated with reaching 1,000 people per event. And your cost per lead is the cost associated in acquiring one customer. Both of these values become really important when we talk about our customer lifetime value. So this is the cost associated with acquiring a new customer, whether it be through marketing, as it relates to the money that you've put in. Now, this metric is really important, again, because it helps you understand that your relationship with your customer is long-term, and you want to understand the value creation over that length of time, over the lifetime of that customer. And as they always say, it's easier to keep a customer than to get a new one. And so you want to understand maybe putting in money up front and investing and maintaining your customer relationships and maximizing their lifetime value might be more beneficial than just trying to acquire as many new customers as possible. So focusing on this metric could be a great way in setting your budget and understanding how to invest in your marketing moving forward.